What's up, gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. In this video, I am going to talk a little bit more about Eastern Europe and why you've been lied to. So Eastern Europe in general is going to be the places east of Germany. Now, this is based on my limited United States education. Well, not limited, but limited in terms of the world. So in the United States, the fall of the Berlin Wall, everything east of that was considered Eastern Europe. Now, I know in the modern day, that is not necessarily how it is seen, but for the purpose of this video, that is the context that I need to give you. And so I want to say that you've been lied to in some ways, and I've touched on this in some other videos. So first and foremost, a lot of people in Eastern Europe that are seen as more conservative really aren't that conservative in some ways. So a lot of women in particular have been raised to be independent and to be reliant upon themselves because their parents want them to be self-sufficient, so they end up with a higher quality man. Now, and so when you think you're just gonna be able to go over there and you're gonna get yourself I don't even know what it's called, like a tradcon wife that's like a homemaker, I wouldn't necessarily just bank on that. Secondly, hypergamy. And I don't really want to get super into it, but it's essentially the fact that women are going to try and date the best person they can. And a lot of people, many years ago, and even kind of recently, were going to Eastern Europe and having really great success because simply by being an American or Canadian or Australian or what may have you, it doesn't matter particularly which country, but you could go there and you would be able to meet these hypergamy requirements because the men in these countries, for the most part, simply just, oh, that's not a great angle going back here. Okay. So simply just couldn't compete because of the economies of these countries. But over the last 30 years or 20 some odd years, so many countries have joined the EU. And by joining the EU, this has undoubtedly, based on the statistics, risen the country up. And so when you go to places like Lithuania, when you go to places like Poland in particular, the competition is much greater than what it was before. And that is something that you need to understand. That's not gonna simply be like shooting fish in a barrel anymore. Now, to an extent, it might be, depending on the quality of women you are trying to pursue. But in general, the competition is much higher. So you're going to have to make sure your looks are in order. You're going to have to make sure you're well kept, well dressed. You're going to have to make sure your money is right. Because guess what? It's not like you're going to be competing with a bunch of backwater people anymore. It's like now you're going to be competing with people who have money, who dress well, who are, in some cases, are very tall, especially in Lithuania. And when money goes to places, the people start to look better because they can invest in themselves. They have more money to spend on themselves. They can change their fashion, improve their appearance, and all these things. So you need to know that if you are a fat slob in the United States or wherever you're from, and you're planning to go anywhere in Eastern Europe, maybe with the exception of Ukraine and maybe Russia after these world events are dealt with. Wow, my arm is killing me, so we're gonna have to make some adjustments here. There we go. And I'll cover Ukraine and Russia here in a minute. But you need to know that in general, the competition in these places are going to be much higher than it was previously. And therefore, in order to meet the requirements for hypergamy, you're going to have to be a better man than the people who were talking about these places, 5, 10, 15, God forbid, 20, 30 years ago. Much different places, much improved, but that means the competition is that much greater. Now, as it relates to Ukraine and Russia. So in particular, Ukraine, that is probably the one exception, because obviously there's that whole situation going on over there. And this is one of those cases where I talk about in yesterday's video, you shouldn't care about what society thinks. So if you go to Ukraine after the war to take advantage of the situation, I don't care. And you shouldn't care what other people think, because unfortunately things have happened there. But I've talked about in my video that, in a previous video at least, that as soon as the war is over, I'm going to Ukraine to invest money there, because the best time to invest and the best places to invest are where there is blood in the streets. And so there's going to be a massive opportunity there. And I'm sure I'm going to get comments under here going, "You were going to take advantage of the situation." You're damn right I am taking advantage of the situation. That doesn't mean I want the situation to occur, though. But I'm not in control of those things, but I'm going to simply play the hand that I was dealt, and I don't care what people think of that. And so Ukraine is one place that might be an exception. Now, the last thing is obviously kind of related to the previous thing, and that is the fact that a lot of places in Eastern Europe are just kind of, I don't want to say not safe, but you never know what Putin is going to do. And I say that because, like Latvia, for example, it borders Russia. And I know it's part of the EU and all that good stuff, but depending on what happens in Ukraine, well, is that going to make Putin more incentivized to try things in Poland, in Latvia? And so that's one thing you always have to be constantly aware of. But I just wanted to shoot this quick video and let you know some of the things that I personally probably have not put in the proper context for many of you watching my content on my time in Eastern Europe. And with all this said, I do not think Eastern Europe is a bad place. I just think you need to be aware of what you are getting yourself into, especially if you're coming from a place like Latin America, where in general the economies are going to be a little bit worse. The education level is probably a little bit worse as well. And so you'll need to know that in order to meet those hypergamous requirements, you're likely going to have to be a pretty decent guy. Whereas the hypergamous requirements in Latin America, and probably in Southeast Asia as well, are a little bit lower than they would be in Eastern Europe. Alright, so that's going to wrap up this video. Let me know what you think. Comment down below. It'll help me with the algorithm. Make sure to like, subscribe. Once again, help your boy with the algorithm. And I will see you guys in the next video. And as always, thank you for watching. Peace, much love.